Pete Buttigieg.
No,
Pete
Mayor
Buttigieg.
Pete.
Say it ain't so, Mayor Pete. Say it ain't so. I mean, in addition to being a completely empty vessel of a man, there's no there there. There's never been a there there. He keeps talking about my generation like this is MTV's like Total Request Live. Like he's not exactly, he's 38's not old, but he's not like, young, But my generation. So Mayor Pete, he has a bit of a black people's problem, as in
Indeed.
Donald Trump has more support among African Americans. I don't really think there's anything more to say. If Donald Trump has more support among African Americans than you do, you're in deep doo-doo. You're in deep doo-doo if that's the level. So, Mayor Pete, obviously you can't win the Democratic nomination. You could win Iowa, maybe. Maybe he wins Iowa. You could win New Hampshire, maybe. But you're certainly not going to win South Carolina, or after those first two states, you start getting into more diverse states. So, great find. This is from The Intercept. Mayor Pete just invented endorsements from significant African Americans. This is from Ryan Grimm. Pete Buttigieg has showed remarkable staying power in the Democratic primary with the most recent Monmouth poll, blah, 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 blah. In July, he released his campaign's chief piece of policy outreach to black voters called the Douglas Plan, a comprehensive investment in the empowerment of black America. Okay, sounds good. Frederick Douglass, abolitionist hero. The plan, who the Washington Post, by the way, compared Elizabeth Warren's selfies
I still can't get
to
over
Frederick
that.
Douglass. So his plan covers everything from criminal justice reforms to public health care, education, and beyond. Proposes using federal contracting rules to increase the amount of contracts going to minority and women-owned firms, and blah, blah, blah. Great. I don't really care what his plan is, because you go ask the people of South Bend, Indiana. He's been a disaster for black people in South Bend, Indiana. So, like Elizabeth Warren, you can write good plans down, but I'm looking at what have you done. Right. And I've spoken with black residents of South Bend, Indiana. He has shielded the white police from responsibility for police shootings of a black man recently. There is a very controversial phone recording where racist things were said about a black police officer. That black officer was then fired, and that tape has not been released. Pete, as the mayor, pretends he doesn't have the power to release that call. I beg to differ. So, what's amazing here, and it was the infamous moment when somebody in South Bend said, you're running for president and you want black people to vote for you. The woman said, that's not going to happen. Ma'am, I'm not asking for your vote. You remember that?
Yikes, yep.
So, to build support for this Frederick Douglass plan, Buttigieg and his staff lobbied prominent black South Carolinians to endorse it in order to strengthen the cause of racial justice. The Washington Post reported on Monday that Buttigieg persuaded hundreds of prominent black South Carolinians to sign on to the plan, even if they are not supporting Buttigieg himself. Along with his release of the plan, his campaign directed consultants to convene focus groups with undecided black voters. The resulting research memo, finalized in late July, concluded that Buttigieg's sexuality was a barrier to winning support among black voters. The memo was leaked in the press this fall. Though the campaign has since denied that it was the source of the leak, the initial article about the memo, published by McClatchy, includes on-the-record quotes from Buttigieg's campaign. 3 days later, Buttigieg's campaign began promoting a list of 400, wow, that's a lot, South Carolinian supporters of his Douglas plan in emails to reporters and on social media. Buttigieg traveled to South Carolina to spread awareness of the plan. The supporters were rolled out in a press release. So this sounds great. 400. That's great.
Sounds good.
Only problem. Quote, there is one presidential candidate who has proven to have intentional policies designed to make a difference in the black experience, and that's Pete Buttigieg. Read the open letter released with the plan. We are over 400 South Carolinians, including business owners, pastors, community leaders, and students. Together we endorse his Douglas plan for black America, blah, blah, blah. The blowback came immediately. Devine, who has not endorsed the candidate yet in the presidential election, told The Intercept she didn't intend her support for the plan to be read as an endorsement for Buttigieg's candidacy. and believes the campaign was intentionally vague about the way it was presented. Quote, clearly, from the number of calls I received about my endorsement, I think the way they put it out there wasn't clear, that it wasn't an endorsement, of the plan, and that may have been intentionally vague. I'm political. I know how this works. I do think they probably put it out there thinking people wouldn't read the fine print or wouldn't look at the details or even contact the people and say, hey, you're endorsing Mayor Pete? Asked if she knew if any of the black supporters of the plan were also supporters of Buttigieg, she said she's not sure. The ones I really knew were me and Congress Rep. Thigpen. I don't know many, actually, now that I think about it, other than folks working on Mayor Pete's campaign. I don't know of any local elected officials who have endorsed him yet.
Burn.
Thigpen, meanwhile, has endorsed Bernie Sanders for president and was startled when he learned the campaign had not only attached his name to the plan, but also listed him as one of 3 prominent supporters atop the letter. Quote, how was it rolled out? How it was rolled out was not an accurate representation of where I stand, Thigpen told The Intercept. I didn't know about its rolling out. Somebody brought it to my attention, and it was alarming to me because even though I had conversations with the campaign, it was clear to me, or at least I thought it made clear to me, that I was a strong Bernie supporter, actually co-chair of the state, and I was not seeking to endorse their candidate or the plan. But what I had talked about was potentially giving them a quote of support in continuing the conversation because I do think it's a very important conversation. So basically, what you have here is Pete Buttigieg campaign. They basically put out an email. They said to these 400 or so people in South Carolina supporting his Frederick Douglass plan. By the way, of the 400 people, half of them were white.
Oh my goodness.
When his campaign was asked about that you're the 400 people supporting you over your plan for black people are white. The response in the campaign, we're building a multiracial coalition.
I just cannot.
But the best part about this to me, honestly, so you do email marketing, right?
Yeah.
You're very good at that. Join our email list, statuscoup.com. Join our email list right now. It's how we get around this fakakta suppression. How many people are on our email list?
Almost 4,000. No.
So what's amazing to me is they put in this email almost like an opt-out. So like opt-out if you don't want your name attached to this plan or Mayor Pete. Does anybody read like all the way at the bottom of the email? Very few people.
Very few.
So that's almost like if I'm a politician, like calling, I don't know, Barack Obama and saying like, hey, you have an hour, let me know if you don't want me to say you support
right.
me.
Otherwise, I have your endorsement.
It's like this is like an opt-in or opt-out endorsement.
Oh, God.
And I actually think this is truly. I want to talk for a second. I mean, we're trying to grow ourselves, but I got to give a little shout out to The Intercept here. This is why independent media is so important. Look at this story. The Washington Post just regurgitated what the Buttigieg campaign told them. The Washington Post, because they have no critical journalists and they just do press releases, the Washington Post reported on Monday that Buttigieg persuaded hundreds of prominent black South Carolinians to sign up for the plan. Ryan Grimm of The Intercept did something very revolutionary. He read the endorsement announcement. He looked at the 3 prominent black people that the Buttigieg campaign was claiming, and he just found their number or whatever. Hey, this is Ryan Grimm from The Intercept. Oh yeah, I hope you're doing well too. I just want to confirm, because I want to confirm that you are endorsing this Frederick Douglass plan and also Pete Buttigieg for president. What? This takes probably longer to find their contact information.
Right. That was some nice Ryan Grimm role play, by the way.
Right. This intrepid journalism. Seriously, good job.
Yeah, good job.
Doesn't take that long. And Intercept, with far less resources than the Washington Post, figures out, oh, this guy is full of And, sometimes there are mistakes. Campaigns make mistakes or whatever.
Of course.
You don't make mistakes like 3 prominent black lawmakers in South Carolina endorsing you. So, yeah. And by the way, I tweeted this out yesterday. But this is the guy. This is the guy that the corporate media, oh, there's my button, that the corporate media has been propping up. Did you ever watch Family Matters with Steve Urkel?
Yeah, of course.
You know how there was the time machine where he could go back in time or forward?
It's been like 100 years.
It's like they have this machine and they just throw them in. They did this with Kamala Harris too. And they bounce the candidate around. They mold the candidate, woman or man, into whatever the hell they want. And out spits, my generation.
Yeah.
And, we can't afford to go back. Policy somewhere in there? We'll get to that later. I'm not black. Obviously, you're not black, so I'm not going to white-splain to black voters. But I'd be very concerned here about somebody who the corporate media barely covers it, but has serious problems with his own constituents in a small town, city, 100,000 people, and is now just making up endorsements in South Carolina.
The Washington Post should be embarrassed. The Buttigieg campaign should be extremely embarrassed, but clearly this was meant to they clearly orchestrated this as a PR game. It's really, really disturbing, especially to use black support as something you're going to spin and lie about like this. It's really, really offensive.
And I am ready to get down with the devil here.
Oh?
I have a suggestion, if you're watching. I have a suggestion for Cory Booker's campaign and Kamala Harris's campaign, who are both, on life support here politically. I mean, if they don't show a pulse, if they don't do something in this next debate, it's lights out, particularly, frankly, for Kamala Harris. I say lob some grenades at Mayor Pete on this.
Take him out.
It would be a lot harder for a white candidate. I'm just saying. I mean, they are the black candidates in the race, and I don't agree with them politically, but I think they should be pretty teed off about this.
Absolutely. This is disgusting.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.